The most difficult thing is to find that first phrase, an opening to any story or dialogue. Take that first step towards your dream. Start something for the first time, anything. It requires so much strength. And so I sit here, pondering over the first starting line of today's video. The middle of it, the ending, all written in hectic, sporadic spurs over the recent days, when one thought occurs flowing into another, and I type them down or scribble on a sheet of paper in the middle of my solitary walk. But that first opening line, the first words, the start of something new, the first step, it's always most difficult to take. That's how I feel before making any big or small decision lately. The decision paralysis, they call it. The fear of missing out doesn't allow me to let go of what I already have. What if it turns into a big mistake? I will never find out unless I try. It's funny how, for the fear of missing out, we often end up making no decisions at all. For example, that's how I felt when time came to choose the course of my life. Multiple times in my life, but most recent was, do I stay in the city and pursue my big dream, in the city full of possibilities, or do I move to the countryside, into the unknown, with dreams still in my heart but completely unsure of how it will work out? Whether dreams would be impossible to pursue from a changed, slower pace and an unfamiliar environment. It's the uncertainty that always stands behind that first phrase, the first step that leaves us paralyzed. We never know where it is going to lead us, the drastic change, the experience we've never been a part of. You know, since childhood, I always worked and looked ahead at the future. I realized recently that the little me never had any hobbies. I studied, did music, learned languages, all for the better prospects and a creative life that might potentially happen when I grow up. The goal was to turn every single possible activity into a potential profession. I didn't do anything just for fun, and when I did, well, that felt like time wasted. So now, being an adult with very little hobbies, I realize that the guilt still persists in my mind. While my goals and activities changed, the first thought that springs into my mind is, how productive is this action and how soon can I monetize that? That's ridiculous. It happens on such a subconscious level that it takes me an evening full of exhausted venting to understand this simple idea. Not everything has to be monetized. Hobbies, rest, insignificant little activities are just as important in life, maybe at times even more important than being productive. They are the building blocks of your personality. Living fast in the midst of action doesn't always mean productive or better. Sometimes the fast pace creates an illusion of efficiency, when in reality we spend a lot of that time doing nothing or recovering from brain fog or burnout. Slower pace allows to see and prioritize time better. I do the exact same amount of work, or even more, to be honest, as I did when I lived in a city and worked many jobs. I learned to do things for no particular reason in the spare time that I make for myself. Bake cookies in the shape of flowers as the means of meditation. Read fiction instead of that stack of self-help books I've been so invested in 5 years ago. Lose myself in the beautiful fantasy world of someone else's mind. Live in a fantasy world of my own sometimes. Some people would say this is not realistic, as if the world we live in isn't a miracle in itself. What is realistic to me might not be realistic to someone else, but that's the thing. We all live in our own stretch of imagination. Our sense of reality is quite often fear disguised in a mask of sensibility. When I think how big and vast and magnificent our world is, how different we all are in different corners of it, the sense of reality seems to expand beyond any measure. How many lives there are, how differently we all think, how many emotions all of us feel. Who is there to say that what you feel and see and experience isn't real? I show you my life slightly enhanced in these videos. Of course, I live a normal life, boring for the most part. Creating these videos for me is like painting with my camera. When I was younger, I actually didn't see it that way, because any means of creativity to me was work, was the future prospect. And you know, that is one thing that changed in me, something that I truly believe now, that every single one of us is an artist. Some artists paint with brushes, while others paint with words, music, numbers, ingredients, or a digital camera. By making a mundane moment look a little bit more beautiful, I add this magic into my own life and learn to appreciate the beauty of the surrounding world. I have to stop to really see what I otherwise would have missed in the hectic pace of my regular, everyday life. Looking through the screen of the camera taught me to notice more and absorb the surroundings mindfully. I don't pass by a blooming tree or a neighbor mowing the lawn without inhaling the scent of flowers and freshly cut grass. I don't run away from bumblebees anymore. Well, sometimes I do, but mostly I don't. Instead, helping them off the path when I find one that's become too tired from a busy day collecting nectar. I notice how adorable they are, sleeping in flowers or on trees at the end of the day. They are just like us. We're all part of this natural world, busy doing our own thing and needing a moment of rest when the day is over. Sometimes when I finish writing down my thoughts, I read back and wonder if there is anyone who would think the same. Or am I saying nonsense? Perhaps. It makes sense to me. Sometimes it doesn't need to make sense to anyone else, but if it does, well, I'm glad to know that there is someone else who thinks this way. All of this are simply the musings of someone who is also on the path of figuring out this imperfect life. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again soon.